And we're back. I'm sitting here across from my good friend, my brother, my mentor, and he's like a father figure. Mr. Emile Steenveld, emotional intelligence coach, transformational speaker, and just an all-round good dude. So we're going to talk about a lot of things on this episode. I'm quite uncomfortable sitting here because this guy has a reputation for making people cry. And so, yeah, we're just going to talk about some things. First of all, I met you about 3 years ago now, and this is like our third interview, which is pretty fascinating. And it was just interesting because your energy struck me as something that I want to step into, and I felt like the emotional side of life I just had no awareness of. Like I was just at that point before I met you, just going through life very numb to everything. And yeah, it's very fascinating, the whole emotional intelligence thing. Like I'm like, I have to learn about emotions. I thought I already knew about emotions, but I come from a family where we've suppressed our emotions for so long, and it's just gotten to the point where now I'm learning about it through you, and of course my own learning. I'm realizing that everything in life is about how you feel. And that's literally all it is.
Yeah, man. Emotions, just the word emotion is energy in motion. So it's like people make decisions based on their emotions. People react based on their emotions. They listen to their feelings, and it's a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think we should listen to our feelings, but we also should recognize when we're reacting versus responding. When we are getting triggered, and where is the trigger coming from, right? Our emotions can be such great indicators, and it can teach us so much about ourselves if we pay attention to it. If we decide that we are not ruled by our emotions and we learn how to emotionally regulate versus, oh my God, I fear having a breakdown, or I fear crying in front of people, or I fear looking like a fool in front of people.
Yeah.
And what do? When those fears come up, we sabotage, we run, we hide, we avoid.
That reminds me of the last time I did stand-up. I was freaking out, bro. I couldn't focus. Like, because I hadn't done stand-up for like 10 months. I'd done it before, but this time, for some reason, because, I don't know, I had new friends there in the audience, I was just not in the zone at all. And I was worried about how I'm perceived. I'm like, oh, fuck. I was getting so anxious, and then you were sitting next to me, and you were like, close your eyes.
That's right. Yeah, because, it's actually harder to actually perform in front of people you know than it is people you don't know. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, because on the first time I was super confident and I invited 40 of my friends, But yeah.
But what's interesting is that was was it the second time or third time?
It was the third time.
It was the third time, right? So what did you do? You made an expectation in your mind, because the first one went really well. So because I did really well in the first one, your ego gets a little bit of prop. You feel, I killed the first one. I'm going to make the second one even better. So then you start to put the expectations on. When you create these expectations, it's like, I have to create, right? And you know what's interesting about expectations and wanting to do better than the last? It's coming from our ego. Naturally, the masculine goes, I've just got to learn more. I think this will be funny, and you're trying to control the whole situation. Whereas when you went into it the first time, there was no expectation. You're like, I've never done this before. So you almost went into it with childlike play, fun, allow.
Yeah.
And then the third time you're like, this has to be better than the first one. I've invited all these people.
Right. That's right.
All these people are going to come and see me.
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, it's literally that. I created this expectation, which basically caused my unhappiness.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really happy about that last set. Like, just all of it wasn't joy for me because of the expectation that I had. Yeah, it's fascinating, that. But yeah, I think we're going to explore more of my insecurities on this podcast episode. So I want to talk about fear, like fear of success, because you're a coach, you train other coaches to facilitate, group coaching, coaching to one-to-many, right? Which is one-to-many is completely different than one-to-one. And I've only really had experience coaching one-to-one. Like I've spoken to one-to-many, but not in a coaching environment, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with the fear of success as you're coaching? And then we'll take it to a personal area after that.
So how do I deal with fear of success?
Yeah. Do you have fear of success?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think about fear of success. What am I afraid of when I go to each level of my life? And I always ask myself, what am I avoiding? What am I hiding?
Yeah.
And that's a really good question to ask yourself, to check in, to be like, am I still playing safe here? Maybe I'm playing bigger than other people, but am I still playing safe compared to what I know I could be doing? Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there still is things that come up for myself where it's like, if I go to the next level, am I going to be burnt out? We were talking about this the other night. Will I burn out? Will I be like the clients that I'm actually supporting right now, where I can't sleep at night, where I'm playing at such a high level, I'm earning so much money, but I literally need to take a sleeping pill, or I can't relax. And that to me is not rich, right? It's spiritually broke. So that's definitely a fear of mine, for sure. But fear of success, I've really worked through that to the point where it's like I'm able to receive, but also I have to keep checking in to making sure, does this still align with my values? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for the old Emile that wanted the external validation, wanted to be seen?
Yeah. The external validation is you know, I have such a hard time with that, the whole external validation thing, because that's my default. Like I just default go to something outside of myself is going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And no matter how many times I hear that happiness is within, I'm like, no, it ain't, it's out there.
Let me just do a little bit more. Right.
And I just have a hard time with that, you know, like just accepting that the happiness is going to come from within. And this part of doing this is my happiness. So in my mind, I think happiness comes from when I do something. So I have to do something to feel happy.
Yeah.
That's my belief.
Yeah. And it's also a belief that a lot of people do. They have it. Once I achieve this, then I will be happy.
Yeah.
Once I have this money, then I will be happy. Once I have this partner, then I'll be happy. Once I get pregnant, then I'll be happy. Once I get the ring, then I'll be happy. We're constantly looking for outcome-based like goals to solve. And that's how society works. You know, it's like bigger, better, you know, get the American dream. Bigger, better, right? We've been conditioned. And it's almost like you see the people at the top that have made it, that have made the money, that have taken their lives to the next level, and then they all say, it's not it. I'm not happier now.
Yeah.
I'm not more fulfilled. In fact, I feel lonelier. You know, so I think it's better to come from identity-based goals. So it's like, who am I now? What's my values? What do I love about this? And why am I doing this? And then create from that place. Come from it instead of going to it. Two different places. Yeah,
and that's another thing I want to talk about is the motivation. Because recently I've told you this, I've shared openly with you about the fact that I've just lost my hunger.
Yeah.
I had lost my hunger. I'm coming out of it now. But, you know, I just felt like for example, I was doing coaching. This is another reason why we talk about this. But I was doing the coaching in a different space, because I was a health coach, and then I went into like relationship coaching and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was holding space for people that, you know, they had a lot of emotional issues that they hadn't dealt with. And then I was just being a container for them to just let out all their emotion. And I've heard Oprah Winfrey talk about this. She said that sometimes she feels so intensely the other person's emotions that she gets sick also.
Yeah.
And I didn't get sick, but I felt the pressure of that, you know? And it was interesting because I was thinking to myself, I can do this, but do I really want to be doing this? You know, is this what I want to be doing? This is what I want to be doing. Like, I just want to have great conversations with people that I like and, you know, respect and have good value to share. We talk about meaningful topics. And then I was thinking, well, I don't actually want to be a coach, but I felt like I needed to do that to, you know, to achieve my goals.
Well, why did you need to do it?
Well, because it's just like the next thing, you know. It's like the next step in the process that people need help with is coaching. They need one-on-one coaching. And I do enjoy it to a point, but it gets to a point where I want to do it when I want to do it, not when I have to do it.
Yeah, so there's two things that I'm hearing, right? So it's like, how did you get your clients in the first place? And where the clients, who is the ideal client that you want to help and why?
Yeah, so before, when I was doing the health coaching, it was anyone aged between 35 and 50 years old who, wanted to fix their health, optimize their health, and wanted to get back in the gym, get their mojo back, because, when they were 18 years old at high school, they had a great time with their life and they were fit and healthy. All of a sudden they got a job or they got into being an entrepreneur, built a business, had wife and kids, and now their health is like taking a toll because they prioritized business over their health. And so that's basically the avatar that I was targeting.
And now this time when you were coaching?
Then it changed to, then I started doing relationship coaching because I was like, I can help with relationships too. And so it was a single guy who his main goal was to make millions of dollars, and he was in a relationship, but it wasn't going well, and he wanted the relationship to go better. But the conflict was he was focusing so much on his business that he's just not skilled in that area of life. Relationships is not really in touch with how he feels, so therefore he can't relate to his girlfriend how she feels. And so I was just helping him navigate that. And then another guy was basically hated the world and had resentments towards his entire family, hadn't spoke to his brother for 5 years. And so I was helping these kinds of people.
And you felt heavy, you said, after you finished the sessions.
Yeah, I liked coaching, but then I just started feeling like, man, I got a call at 2:00 tomorrow. Oh, fuck, I got a coaching call, It wasn't like, I'm talking with Emile, like, what happened there? Like, I'm talking to Emile at 2:00 today. It's gonna be great. It wasn't that excitement that I had. And apart from the first few, coaching is great, but I just feel like I'm not the person to be doing the coaching. I don't see myself as that either. Like, as we're talking now, I don't actually, like, I can do it and I like doing it, but I want to choose when I want to do it, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because again, it's about knowing your strengths. And my strength is more so being in the front of being in the shop window kind of thing, rather than like the person behind the till, like I'm just like, hey, what's up guys? Like, bring everyone in.
Yeah. Coaching's not for everybody.
No.
Right? It takes a lot of patience, it takes presence, it takes empathy, it takes obviously emotional intelligence. To be a good coach, you need to sit with someone literally pouring out their heart, letting go, holding space for that person.
Yeah.
And not everybody can do it. Everybody thinks that, it's a great feeling you get when you first get coached, or you have that epiphany, right? Like, remember when you first came to one of our events and you had this massive epiphany, you had about your relationship with your father and love. And you're like, oh my God, everything opened up. That's an amazing feeling. So then we naturally go, I want to give that to other people, But what comes on the other side of that light is the dark, is the heaviness. How do you move people's emotions? How do you not get pulled into their stories? Because so many of us do. And when you're hearing these stories, it can also trigger something in us sometimes. It can trigger our own traumas.
Yes.
Right? It can mirror us.
Yeah.
And so many times you'll have a client, you'll be like, oh my God, this sounds like me. Oh man, there's no coincidence.
And that triggers a story also. When I think that thought, fuck, this guy's experiencing exactly what I experienced. I'm meant to be helping him. I can't say that I experience exactly what he's experiencing. Therefore, why the fuck's he paying me?
So you see how that's interesting, right? Because you're not paid to be a consultant. A consultant tells you what to do. A consultant needs to know everything about everything to do with relationships. A coach is there to question, to listen, to be present, to ask deeper questions so that the client comes up with the answer themselves. It's to empower the client. And that's one of the biggest myths in coaching, is that so many coaches out there literally will say, I need to know more. I don't know enough.
That story, I was in a mastermind in San Diego, my business mentor, And I literally said that. He's like, why aren't you helping people get a six pack? And I said, well, I need to know more. He's like, you know enough right now. I was like, no, I need to know more. And that belief was held me back. You know, I was like, I need to know more.
But you know what you're doing when you're saying that, right? I need to know more. Like, this is how I pick up on patterns, right? Translates into, I don't trust myself now to support that client. I'm scared that they're going to think that I'm a phony or I'm not going to know the answer and I'm going to get caught out. So I'm going to try and get as much information to make sure I don't fail. Because you think you need to get it perfect or right. But when you trust yourself, and you trust yourself as a coach in that space to hold space with someone, it's like, I don't need to be a better basketball player than you. I don't need to know more about politics than you. I don't need to know more about your business in the space, like in running your business. I need to know where your emotional blocks are. I need to know how you do one thing. How do you deal with your kids? I need to know how you deal with rejection. I need to know if you've actually dealt with forgiveness or you're still holding on to resentment from like 20 years ago. So I know my craft. I stick to my craft. I stay in my lane. But if I'm focusing on him and going, oh my gosh, he's really successful, and I start thinking about how successful he is, then it takes away me, my gifts from myself in being able to coach him effectively. And that's the ego. The ego is going to look for all the things that you're not. And it's going to go, see, let me prove that right. Let me find things or reasons where I can sabotage and keep you back in, because this is really scary. This is like, you're out in the open. You could be exposed.
One of the things that people think about coaching is, oh, anyone can be a coach. You can just call yourself a coach. So one of the there's a mutual friend we have, and she asked me, what is Emile's credential? I think she asked you this too. She was like, well, what are your credentials? And I find that very fascinating, because can you talk about like what makes someone a coach? Like, because how can you become a coach? Do you have to go through training, or what's the process?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that with the coaching industry, it's unregulated.
Yeah.
This is the dangerous part about it. Anyone can say they're a coach. They can put it on their Instagram and say, I'm a coach. I don't believe you need to have a certificate, but I do believe you need training. I don't believe that because you have a certificate makes you a better coach. So people want results. And if you have experience and you've gone through, like, you've run a whole business, you've lost money, you've made money, you know, and you've learned how to structure a business effectively and hire, then you could be a business coach because you've had the experience, right? But if you haven't had the experience and then you go and do a life coaching course and do a certificate, and then you say, I'm a business coach, what's more valuable? Who would you go to? So this is where I think people get it misconstrued with the whole thing. Like, even when I hear I hear people say, I'm a life coach, and I go, oh, okay, right? And, you know, there's so many coaches. It's such a growing industry. And what makes me qualified to do what I've done, I have done so many different courses, experiences. I was a yoga teacher. I've done theta healing, Reiki. I was a yoga teacher. I've done NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. I did a 2-year ICA international coaching course with the ICF, International Coaching Federation. But that still doesn't make me a better coach than someone that has had full experience in running a business. If I was to say I was a business coach, depends on what I'm teaching and what I'm coaching. Mm-hmm. So it really does depend on, like, what's your craft and what lane are you in. It's so many people out there that literally don't have certificates and they're just calling themselves, and they're really good at marketing, but not necessarily getting results.
Yeah, one of my friends, he said he's worried about the fact that whatever coach he goes with, they don't actually know how to help him, because all they focus their efforts on is marketing rather than actually being good at their craft. Yeah. Well, their craft is marketing, but they're also saying that they're a good coach.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
I'm just getting, like, I have a marketing team now. Mm-hmm. But for years, I never had a marketing team. I focused on my craft. I focused on becoming better at my craft. How can I get clients results faster? How can I give them an experience where they don't forget it and they leave feeling transformed? You know, when we run events, it's like, how can we create the most amazing event where people come for 4 days and literally come out differently and it sheds so much old resentments and pain and judgments and fears and come out with a vision of new possibility. And that's what excites me, is the transformation. Is like, and you saw it when I was coaching on stage. When you see someone on stage and you see how they come up and they're heavy and they start talking about things that they've gone through. And then it's like I followed them on this path and I'm like, where was that? Who did that? Where did that come from? And all of a sudden we start shifting it. And you see it in real time where people's energy shifts and it moves. That's the most gratifying thing to watch.
Mm. Yeah, so it's very fascinating watching you live coaching, because you can tell that anyone, if you watch him live on stage coaching someone, you can tell that he hasn't just called himself a coach yesterday. Like you pick up on the patterns and you're able to go there faster than anyone I've seen. You know, like you know what to talk about to get them to open up, to release whatever they need to release very fast. And that's a skill, you know, you've honed that skill.
Yeah.
And like, how do you know what patterns to pick up on?
Good question. I have certain people that I coach. I have avatars. I work with high achievers, high performers. I've worked with businesses, but I look at the traits that when I first started. The reason why I coach those people is because I was a high achiever. I was a perfectionist. I was a people pleaser. I didn't know how to set boundaries. So I've picked apart those traits and I've gone, what are all the patterns that a people pleaser has? For example, they can't say no. They are constantly tired. They have built up resentment. They don't know how to communicate their needs. Right? So when a person starts telling me these things, I'm like, oh, that's just a trait of a people pleaser. If they're a perfectionist, I'm like, oh, they keep procrastinating. They keep waiting to get everything perfect before they can start. Oh, they keep making excuses, right? Everything has to look good. They're constantly thinking, they're overthinking things in their head because they're trying to force it. I need it to be the best. Why? Because they lack acceptance for themselves. Because what is perfectionism? If a person's wanting perfection, is because I get when I'm striving for perfectionism, let me say this again. When I'm striving to get something perfect and I do get it perfect, what do I get?
Reward.
I get reward, I get praise,
Approval.
I get approval, I get acceptance. So you know what I'm saying? Everything leaves clues. Success leaves clues. Patterns leave clues. These traits leave clues. And because I've been doing it for 11 years, I'm able to pick up on the pattern faster and faster. I'm like, oh, that's connected to that. That's connected to that.
So there's these key things like perfectionism, people pleasing, and you know exactly what symptoms there are.
Traits of a high achiever, someone that has low self-esteem, someone that's like wanting to be heard but doesn't speak up. Maybe they have problems with their throat chakra. That's clearly someone that doesn't speak up, someone that doesn't honor their needs.
I'm all of those things you just mentioned.
I know, as I'm talking, you're like...
Yeah, like the people pleaser, man, I've battled with that. I didn't even know I was a people pleaser until I met you. That's the crazy thing. Because I was just like, yeah, this is how I am. And I didn't realize that, man, like not speaking up when I should speak up. Like, why don't I speak up? Like, I felt I needed to do, it's good that I'm doing jiu-jitsu, but the issue wasn't, oh, I need to do martial arts. It was, I need to just speak up when I feel like something bothers me.
Yeah. But why, you think about it now, why don't we speak up?
Out of fear.
Fear of what?
Not being accepted.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, just for me, it was like the boundaries, right? Not speaking up was like, first of all, I don't know how to say it without getting them angry.
Yeah.
How do I say what's on my mind that bothers me without coming across as angry or negative or, you know?
So that's exactly right. So usually there's a trigger and the trigger gets you going, oh my God, that really pissed me off. And then in that moment, you're like, I want to say this, but then you get in your head and you're like, oh, but last time I said this a long time ago, she or he reacted a certain way to me and I don't want to trigger that. So it's almost like, oh, I don't know how to say this without, you know, so you're so much in your head. And when your energy is all floaty and it's up here, it's not grounded, right? And remember, like when we're going to speak to someone about something, it's better to just take a step back and like, okay, what triggered me about that? What about that situation made me upset? Let me break it down. Okay, maybe I wasn't being listened to, or maybe I wasn't being respected in a certain way, or maybe I was overlooked, or something like that, or maybe I was being excluded. It could have been anything, but the triggers are ours.
Yeah.
Right? The trigger's yours. You have wounds, hidden wounds on your body. Everybody does. I do too. And the closest people to us are going to trigger them because they're mirrors. They're literally shining big magnifying glass, and they're going dunk, and sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's unconscious. And our job is to notice it and notice when I'm getting triggered. Oh, I'm noticing I'm getting triggered. And how do you notice when you're getting triggered? Your breath fastens, you get angry, you get agitated or frustrated. Like these are all little things before you get to the point of anger. But you got to pay attention to those before you get to the point of anger. Because if you're like me, I used to burst and be like, that's it, crack to shit, it's a shit show. Because I wasn't learning how to pick up on the signals before that. And then you have regret later on because you're like, and shame, because I made a big deal out of nothing, and maybe she didn't even know that she was annoying me in this way, or she didn't know that she was disrespecting because I didn't communicate that. And instead of me expecting her to know, I should have communicated, hey, when you do that, it bothers me. Versus, you should know better. How many of us do that?
Well, that's an expectation, right?
Yeah.
You should know better means you should just know. Like women do that all the time. Like you should just know him. You should just know me. Like how could I thought you knew me, and then just start guilt tripping you. Well, guilt tripping me.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't read your mind. No one can read anyone's mind. So also, I was just reading a book recently. It's Boundaries book, and the author was a therapist of 14 years, and she said 90% of the issues that I experience in my therapy sessions are all a root cause of lack of boundaries.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's crazy, man. That's like, so you're telling me almost everything is boundary issue?
Well, what is boundary equals self-care?
Yep.
So if I have lack of boundaries or I don't have any boundaries, I'm telling you that it's okay to treat me a certain way, which eventually erodes my self-esteem, my worth, who I am as a person. Eventually I get sick of it, or I either shut down, or I don't feel I can speak up. So what is a relationship without self-care? If I don't fill my cup, and if I don't love myself, and if I don't care for myself, how am I going to pour that back into your cup? So the boundary is essential in a healthy relationship. And if you're not communicating, and most of the time it's because we don't understand how to communicate. How do I say to you without offending you? And it's actually a skill, right? And a pure example, whenever I'd find a trigger or I'd find something when I'm doing my self-development work or my coach is coaching me, I remember calling my dad and being like, oh shit, I need to talk to my dad about this, because he was part of the major triggers that I've had, right? And I would word it like this. I would say, hey dad, I've just been going through this thing with my coach. I've been breaking down some of these triggers, and I just want to open up to you about this, and I want you to understand something first before I even do this. And he's like, okay. And I said, this is not about you. This is about me. This is not about blaming you, but I want to set the intention and I want to speak to you about it because I want to have a deeper connection with you. So you see the way I've worded that? I'm setting the intention before I even go in there versus, hey dad, I just got finished with one of my coaching sessions and you're the reason why I have an issue with love. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because you never expressed love to me, right? So there's ways of like speaking to your family with respect and in a loving way, because it's like, what's my intention for this in the first place? Why do most of us argue in the first place? Because we're not arguing because we want to argue. We're arguing because something's not there's a lack of connection. We're not being seen by each other. We're not giving ourselves time to be seen by each other because we're coming from hurt. Reaction, 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 reaction.
Yeah, How do you deal with the anger, that emotion?
I teach my clients how to deal with anger with allowing anger. What's your relationship like with anger? Let's do it on you. What's your relationship like with anger?
It's terrible.
So what happens when you become angry?
I just don't say anything.
Yeah. And then so what do? You shut down?
I shut down. I just start raging within.
Yeah. And what happens in your mind when you start raging with him? What do you say? What's the conversation that happens?
Well, like, I don't know what happens in my brain. I guess I tell myself, like, if I just show how angry I am, there's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only solution in my mind.
Do you want to fight?
I don't want to fight. Okay. So that's why I keep it in.
So you keep it in.
Because I don't know how to express
and you hold it,
my
right?
anger. Like, if I just say I'm angry, people will be like, oh, yeah, whatever, mate. But I'm like, no, I'm fucking angry. Like, I don't know how to express anger without getting confrontational. So therefore, I just suppress it.
Yeah. And then what happens?
And it makes me really uncomfortable when I start resenting the person.
And then you start to resent the person.
And I just feel really heavy. I can't breathe properly.
And where do you feel it in your body when you think about anger right now?
Here, in my palms.
In your chest and your palms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you start to get sweaty palms.
Yeah.
Your chest starts to beat faster. And then the person you're angry with, what happens with them? Are you close to them? Do you pull away from them? Do you like avoid them? What do you do?
I pull away, and I just struggle to find words to articulate.
Yeah. Like and how long do you let that go for?
I don't know. I don't know. I know when I say I don't know, you always say you do know. You're just trying to deflect. I can't remember how long I let it go for, but.
How long do you stay angry? A day, 2 days, a week?
About up to a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how exhausting is that?
Very.
Yeah.
But now it's gotten less.
Yeah.
Not many things get me angry anymore. But a day or two now.
All right, let me ask you this. Who in your family was angry?
My dad.
Yeah. My dad. My dad too. And what did you make it mean about him?
Being angry is bad because my mom's crying.
Yeah. So you saw your father as a child be angry at your mother, and you made a decision, an agreement that if I act like that, you're going to make people sad and cry. So what you've done, I will decide to hold down my emotions. I will decide not to express my needs. I will decide not to speak up because I don't want to disappoint or make anyone sad or angry because they might leave as well.
Yep. Precisely. And I'm very good at doing that, but then it takes its toll on me.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, I just don't want to do that anymore. I want to, but then when I do it, I witness, like I say things that are in my mind. And this is another thing. So I say the right thing at the wrong time.
don't we all? That's me.
Like, I should have said that shit 6 months ago. Why would I just say it now? You know?
Yeah. So the thing is, Aaron, it's we need to build the relationship back up with anger. We need to understand that anger is as important as happiness. You can't just be happy and be like, oh, I never get angry. It's actually bullshit.
Yeah.
Because we all get angry. But if we don't acknowledge the anger, if we don't allow the anger, then it becomes a problem. And what I mean by that is when we allow anger, anger is useful. What's anger useful for? Creation? What else? What does anger do when someone crosses a boundary?
Lets them know that that's not okay.
Yeah.
It teaches people how to treat you.
Yeah. See, anger's useful. But if you go, haha, that's all right, just don't do it again, and then the person does it again.
Then I get more angry. I was already angry.
But imagine you don't allow anger to come up, right? So imagine you're the person that doesn't allow anger to come up. I come over and I cross the boundary and you go, hey, that wasn't okay. And I go, oh, sorry, it's all good. It's all right, don't worry about it. And I just fluff it off, right? And then I come back a week later and do the same thing again. And you go, that's okay, it's fine. And, we're living together, right? So imagine like I come into your room, take your charger, take your computer, borrow it, Oh, Aaron won't matter. He never gets mad about anything. Hey, bro, do you know where my stuff is? Oh, yeah, I borrowed it. Okay, cool. Just let me know. Oh, yeah, whatever. That's cool. And I keep crossing the line, and I keep crossing your boundary, and I keep pushing you. Deep down inside, you're like, I don't want to upset this person, or I don't want to make them angry or sad because I don't want to express my anger. So what I'm saying to you is that my needs are not as important as yours every time I don't speak up. So if you want to have a healthy relationship with anger, it's like, how do I express this in a way where it's like, at the time, do I have a right to be mad about this? Has this person crossed my boundaries? I'm going to communicate that to this person, right? And the best way to do that is find out what the trigger points are, because remember, it doesn't just go anger. Anger is like the top emotion. Before anger comes, there's frustration, irritation, right? Friction. And all these things are happening before we get to pop, right? So it's about recognizing your patterns. Like, what is the things that happen before you get to that point of anger, explosion? And allowing yourself to be angry at certain times and going, you know what? I'm allowed to be angry and I'm still lovable. I'm allowed to be angry and still be nurturing. Doesn't make me a bad person. But your idea is that because your father was angry, that means he's bad. Don't behave like that ever.
Yeah, I don't want to be angry, especially in my relationship.
Or almost is, I don't want to be perceived as him.
Yeah. It's I don't know if he's watching it. He probably won't watch this, but yeah, I have flashbacks in my mind of when him and my mum were arguing, and he was like raising his voice and stuff, and I was like, fuck. But then I subconsciously attract that I don't do that in my relationships. I don't raise my voice to women. It's partly because of that, right? I do the opposite. But it's like, I still have the conflict that they had.
How did you feel when you saw that as a child?
I just felt sad for my mom. I felt sorry for my mom. I was like, I thought that she should not be treated like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a better way to come to a solution than just shouting.
And did you ever speak up for your mom?
No, because I was kind of scared of my dad.
Yeah. And what did you make that mean about yourself then?
I'm a fucking coward. Yeah. Like Will Smith. That's why the Will Smith book has blown my mind.
Yeah.
Because he opens the book and he says, like, his whole life he's felt like a coward.
Yeah.
Because his mum got punched in the face by his father and he was standing there looking at it and he didn't do anything. And my mum didn't get punched in the face by my father, but like they had heated arguments and I didn't stand up for my mum, or I don't think I did anyway.
Yeah.
And if I don't think I did, I probably didn't.
Now, when you think about that now, I didn't stand up for my mum, or I didn't feel like I could stand up for mum because I felt powerless.
Yeah, because he's the man. I'm not the man.
Yeah.
I was a kid.
But now you're a man and you're still acting as if you're the child. When someone comes over you and says, hey, what are you doing this? What do you do?
Or I don't know how to react.
Yeah.
I literally don't know what to say to, express how I feel and set the boundary. Like, hey, that's not okay. I just feel like I'm not taken seriously in that regard. And that's something that I've been battling with for a long time. Yeah.
And then how does that make you feel?
It's fucking weak.
Yeah. So the judgment is that I'm weak because I'm not actually saying what I want.
Yeah. Like, I remember I was in the club with my ex-girlfriend in LA and we were in One Oak and we were walking through the crowd and then some guy, I didn't see it, but some guy grabbed her ass.
Yeah.
And it's just me and her, right? I'm in LA. Like, I don't live there. I don't have any friends there. And then some dude just grabbed her ass and then, just like squeezed it, right? As we were walking. And then she turned around and looked at me and she's like, some guy squeezed my butt. And I was just like, in my mind, I'm like, oh God, I can't protect you. I don't know what to do. Like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go up to him and confront him. Absolutely not. So I was like, oh, don't worry about it, and just kept walking. But I do that all the time. Like, it's not just that instance. With women, it triggers me as well. Like, because she was very attractive, right? So I got anxious because I knew that I'd have to enforce boundaries whilst I was with her, because I knew that guys would hit on her. Like if we were sitting at a coffee shop and let's say I go to the toilet, I come back, she's talking to a guy. I'm like, what do I say? I just sat next to her.
Is she allowed to talk to guys?
Yeah, but again, this is another issue.
Let's talk about it.
No, but it wasn't just like he's obviously talking to her because he wants to get in her pants. Like that's obvious.
Okay.
The way his body language was, how he was talking to her, and I see this, and I come back to the table, and then I'm just like, yeah, just sit down, and I just start hugging her because I didn't want to say anything. I just wanted to show through my actions that hey, this is my chick. Or I'll be like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? And then like put my arm around her, you know.
So you need to claim it.
Yeah. Without saying anything.
Well, how about introducing yourself?
Yeah, I sometimes do that.
I think that's the fastest
But then
way.
I'm angry though. In that moment, I'm angry. So as I'm doing that, hey, I'm Aaron, and fucking, like I'm just raging.
Because and where's the anger coming from? The anger is coming from what's this guy doing to you? What is he?
The thought is he's trying to take what's mine.
He's trying to steal my girl. He's trying to steal my girl.
Yeah.
Right? And this is the thing with most men is like they're not trying to steal your girl. Like if you're afraid of a guy stealing your girl, then she's not your girl.
But this was before, but yeah, I'm just sharing, yeah.
But you think about it, right? The anger is coming up like this guy's crossing my boundary.
Yes.
And this is why guys get into fights in clubs.
Yeah.
This guy was talking to my girlfriend. This girl wasn't with her boyfriend. She's by herself. She's an attractive female. Of course guys are going to try and talk to her. Right? I always have a rule. Like if my girl is talking to a guy or he comes up to her, starts talking to her, whatever. If my girl cannot handle herself, there's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
If a girl cannot handle herself and like, hey, thank you, but I have a partner, then there's a problem. If the guy hears her express that she has a partner or she's with someone and he still doesn't get away, then I will have a chat. But other than that, I don't need to. Right?
Yeah, and that's how I feel now. But this particular girl, I had trust issues both ways. So like I didn't trust her ability to just handle herself, and I didn't trust my ability to. Yeah, she did trust me for stuff as well.
Yeah.
So, but now I don't attract those kinds of women. Now I'm more secure in my attachment style.
But going back into anger, the way to move through anger, right?
Yep.
Is think about those situations where you feel uncomfortable having an uncomfortable conversation. And what happens in our body when we're having those uncomfortable conversations? Our heart starts to patter. We're like, oh shit, I don't want to offend her or this or that. And it's a really good idea just to jot down like, what's my intention for this conversation?
Yeah.
Is it to be right or is it to be connected?
Right. Yes.
Right? And we always need to ask ourselves those kind of questions because most of us going to a confrontation with trying to be right. I want to be the one that's right because if I'm right, that means that I'm worthy of love and I get acceptance and I'm the one that wins. And you don't always win. You keep trying to win a conversation and you keep teaching your girl or your partner that you're wrong, it's going to eventually end because it's going to be lopsided. Right? Because what happens when you're wrong? Do you accept being wrong?
Not really.
Do you take responsibility when you're wrong?
Yeah, now, but before I didn't.
Yeah, because that
blame.
means that you're not enough. That means that I'm a bad person because I'm wrong. So in relationship, especially when you're in a confrontation, breathe through it. Remind yourself, I'm actually not getting killed. Nothing's actually happening. I'm just communicating with this person. I'm trying to understand where she or he is coming from. That's a better way to help you move through it and go, none of us died. We came to a solution. We still we talked about it. We got the rabbit, the elephant out of the room. And we spoke about it.
Yeah. There's two things I want to bring up. That's the first one is I feel like a lot of people don't know how to deal with people expressing their anger and boundaries. Like if I set a boundary, It depends on who you hang out with too.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they just can't take it. They take it too personal. And it's like, oh, it's like, fuck. They take it so personal. You're like, it's not personal, bro. That's just my boundary. That's just how I live my life.
Why do you think people take boundaries personal? Especially if you didn't have any. Imagine you didn't have any boundaries first, and then all of a sudden you start setting boundaries with people.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're going to take it personal?
Yeah, that happened in my relationships, and they take it personal because they feel like, I guess they feel like they don't know me. Like, I thought I knew you. Like this, why does this bother you all of a sudden? What's going on with you? Like, this bothered me from 6 months ago. I'm just telling you now.
Yeah, I haven't said it. So usually a boundary will bother someone when it shifts the way their relationship is impacted.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm so used to getting what I want, or I get to do what I want, how I want, and it really suits my needs. But all of a sudden you're saying, no, that's not okay with me now. And that irritates me because now it's like, I don't get to do what I want, how I used to do it. And this is the thing about boundaries is communicating it, and not just communicating it once, it's doing it over and over again until the person that you're setting the boundary with understands that this is the way this person wants to be treated.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is because if I set it once and then I let you go back on it. So just say I'm like, what's a boundary that you set, but then you like let the person just stomp all over your boundary? Something that you're like, you know what, this is how I want to live. And then you're like, the person just was like, whatever. And they just kept on doing. And you're like,
yeah, like really spontaneous dinners and stuff. Like if there's like an hour to go and then you message me, like, hey, let's go for dinner. Like, I need more time than that, But sometimes I'll let that slip.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be like, oh, yeah. Instead of like, no, if you want to go dinner with me, let's give me some time. At least a day.
Yeah. So pure example, like, and then all of a sudden I get mad at you because you're like, why aren't you coming? Come on, just do it.
Yeah.
Right? Come on, stop being a tight ass. Stop being so, right? And your inner people pleaser goes, oh, I don't want to be seen as difficult, or I should just go and just say yes. But then you say yes, and then you feel resentment.
Yeah. Fuck, why did I fucking go to that thing?
Yeah. And how many of us do that, including myself, where I'd be like, I say yes to things and I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Right? And it's because it comes down to your values. What is my values? What is my standards? And when I don't have values, I don't actually have I don't feel worth. I don't have nothing to actually give me guidance to whether I want to do something or not. I just go with other people's flow. And when you think about it like that, it's like every time you don't follow through with your boundary, you're communicating to the person that you're setting the boundary with in the first place that, you know what, my boundaries are weak and you're going to push them over anyway. And if you keep on persisting, you'll probably get your way. So we're always teaching people how to treat us.
So how do you get comfortable with setting the boundaries then? Because what's the underlying issue there? Is it self-worth, or it's craving for acceptance so much that you just do what other people want you to do instead of what you want to do?
Most of the time people don't set boundaries because they want to be liked, because I want to be accepted. I don't want to be seen as difficult. I don't want to be seen as not fun, right? So if I set a boundary, I could offend people. Oh, Emile doesn't take shit like that. Oh, Emile doesn't do that. You know, it's funny because I hear certain situations where people get spoken to in a certain way, and I'm like, it never really happens to me. And it usually happens to people that have low self-esteem, or don't have boundaries, or don't speak up. And certain people would take advantage of it. I remember being in a relationship where I was dating a girl that had borderline personality disorder. I didn't understand my values. I constantly kept bending over for her, making sure her needs were kept. But whenever I wanted to speak up for something, she would lose it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. So I would just do it. And that relationship ruined my self-esteem and my confidence. I stopped trusting myself because I was getting gaslit. This person was constantly bombarding me with you said you were going to do this, you didn't follow through with this, and da da da. And I'm, you know, when you're constantly a bad all the time. Remember I said to you before, if you're constantly right, there's a relationship. You're not always going to be right. And if you are, there's a problem. There's two people in a relationship. And I was finding in this relationship that I was constantly wrong and just going on with it. Like, oh, okay, she must be right. She's got evidence. And eventually it got to a point where I was like, I need help. I need outside help. I need to speak to someone to be like, is this normal? And I remember my mom suggested, maybe you should go to a psychologist. And I saw this psychologist and I went for like 2 sessions and he talked to me about values. And he said, what are your values? And I was like, I don't know what my values are. And this is why I teach this so much and I'm so passionate about values, is because it's your worth. It's how you make decisions. It's how you build relationships. It's how you build your business. It's how you understand if this is something that I want to be doing and what it lights me up about or not. Values counteract your old agreements and these underlying beliefs that have been holding you back, right? And I remember once I started to understand my values, I realized, and the psychologist told me at the same time, he was like, if this decision does not align with your values, you can say no. And I was like, you can? So that was my gauge. And every time I made a decision, I check my values and I go, this doesn't align with my values. And I said no. And eventually that relationship ended quite fast. But it was because I was setting a boundary. It was because I was setting a standard of how I want to be treated. And it was because I put myself, my own needs first and my own values ahead of hers.
But that's easier said than done, right?
Well, that's the practice.
Yeah.
It takes practice. Of course, you're going to learn it, but the difference is, how am I practicing this? How am I practicing this daily? I still have on my board behind you, like, values. I teach all my clients, have the values in front of you. Make sure you know why they're a value. Make sure you understand what this value is going to combat. Make sure you understand how to practice this. How are you practicing this daily so you embody it, not just know it? It's not enough to know your values, you have to embody it. So many of us don't embody it. We just learn something once and we go, yep, I'm done. I read that book, cool. But I'm like, have you gotten the lessons out of that book and practiced it to the point where you mastered it, where it becomes part of you, part of your identity? This is who I am now. I used to think confrontation was so scary, bro. And I put assertiveness as a value. And assertiveness means your values matter and so do mine, but I'm not going to sacrifice my values for yours. And I worked out every single way, how can I be more assertive? What is assertive? Like, I don't need to be aggressive, I don't need to be rude, but I can speak up if I feel like something is unjust.
Yeah, and that's actually the best word to describe it. It's being more assertive. I practice that now with like ordering food. Let's say, for example, I ordered food about a month ago, and I ordered 4 eggs. And the plate came and there was only 2 eggs. I could tell because I normally order 4.
Yeah.
And I said to the waitress, this isn't 4 eggs. She's like, no, it is. I was like, no, it's not. I normally order 4 eggs and I know what that looks like. This is 2 eggs for sure. She's like, no. I'm like, look, I'm telling you, this is 4 eggs. And it was just, I was being assertive, which is before my past. Like I didn't normally do that. I'd be like, oh fuck, they just gave me the wrong order. It's okay. And anyone else who would be assertive with the waitress, I would judge them for it. I'd be like, dude, why are you always so extra, bro? Like, just leave it, bro. Yeah. He's like, no, I ordered this. I'm going to have this.
Yeah.
Like,
my girlfriend would get annoyed with me at the start. Like, when we go to restaurants and stuff, I'll be like, no, that's not it. That's not what I ordered. If I ordered steak and it was medium rare, I'm like, it's cooked. I'm like, that's not what I ordered. I had no problem speaking up about things. Because at the end of the day, you can do it in a way that's nice. You don't need to be rude about it.
Yeah.
You can still be polite, right? You don't have to be righteous about it. You don't need to put the person down. You can just be like, hey, this is not what I ordered, and can you change it?
I just realized that. So every altercation my dad had with people in business or on the phone or whatever, like, he always got more angry, like, as it progressed. And so I just perceived every altercate every confrontation as I'm just going to get more angry, like my dad, because he doesn't know how to talk to people in a way where, well, at least my memory of him when he was doing this stuff, like he'd just get more and more angry instead of, even when he came to Thailand, like it happened then, because this is, when he came to Thailand was about 7 years ago. And Thailand, you know, it's like really chill, you know, and I forget exactly what happened, but sometimes we'll be bartering with the vendors, and then he'd start getting a bit mad that they were charging him more money. And I can understand you get a bit mad if they're like charging you like crazy high price, but then the way he was negotiating it was kind of like he was getting more and more angry. I could see that, and I was like, Dad, I'm always the peacemaker because of that.
Yeah,
I'm a natural peacemaker. I was like, Dad, just chill, like it's cool, you know, like it's cool, like always the peacemaker.
So your role in the family was, as soon as your dad gets angry or stuff, you'll fix it.
Yeah.
So you became the fixer. I'll take responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? And we all do that. We all take roles in our families. But how is that now? Were you still taking responsibility for your family?
For my family?
Yeah, because, you know, he's talked about like, I'll be the peacemaker. I'll just make sure everything's okay. I'll just settle it. I don't want to be embarrassed. Right? It's like you're taking responsibility for his shit. Who else do you take responsibility for?
I stopped now, but my mum, I guess. I feel.
Have you stopped? Do you still get triggered when your mum says stuff or your brother says stuff?
Yeah, like I get triggered with my brother if he's watching this. So my brother and I relationship is good. I think I need to put more effort in though to like call him more and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's where I was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Before we got into all this emotions and stuff, and suppressing how he really feels, not setting boundaries, and I see it in him, and that triggers me. It's not nothing to do with him. It's just I see like I used to do that too.
Yeah.
You know.
But you know where a trigger is? If it's still triggering you, it means I need to look at it. If it's still triggering me,
yes,
there's something in me that's not healed.
Because I'm still doing it a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why it's triggering.
Yeah, because then I'm making a judgment.
Yeah. And
the judgment's coming from a place of, oh shit, there's still something in me that's not healed.
Yeah. And that's another thing about relationships is no matter how much work you do on yourself, you get in a relationship and it just uncovers a whole nother layer.
Everything goes out the work
that you need to work on.
Yeah, you can do as much self-development as you want, but as soon as you get in a relationship, it opens up a new can of worms. And that's the beautiful thing about relationships too.
Yeah. What do you think about relationships in the sense that can you be with anyone and learn to just tolerate them? Or do you have to match a certain type of partner?
I think you need to check in to go, I think everyone's going to have their own standards of what they want in a partner. I mean, do you want to be with anyone?
No, but I think I could be, but that's, again, if I'm not clear on my values, then I can be like a leaf in the wind, be with anyone.
Let me give you another example. If I was to say to you, go and date anyone in Canggu, and they're saying, hey, I'm going to go and do something that's totally not interesting to me, do you think you wouldn't be with that person all the time?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we date people that interest us, that have similar values, not the same exactly, but similar values that are exciting to us. Because relationship is like a friendship. It's like, why am I hanging out with this person?
Yeah.
Other than like having sex, it's like you want to develop a friendship, you want intimacy, you want connection, you want to have similar interests. I value a partner that values their health because I value health. I want a partner that is active and wants to travel because I value travel. All right. If I was dating someone that's like, I don't train or I just like eat shitty food and I don't like traveling, I'll be like, this would be really hard because what happens every time I want to go travel or I want to go eat somewhere or do something? What do you do together? So I do believe that you have to have similar values. It doesn't have to be the same, but you want to have similar interests because you're there to evolve with this person. They're matching you in different ways. They're going to bring up stuff for you in different ways. Like my partner, she was on the podcast. She's a TV presenter, actress, she's so comfortable speaking on camera, right? When I speak on camera, I'm like, "Bleh, bleh," like, you know, like if I have to talk directly to a camera, I'm literally, you know, stuttering every 5 words,
So
right?
interesting.
But when I coach on stage, or if I'm talking about emotions or breaking stuff down, I'm like, whatever, I just talk about anything. But everyone has different strengths, you know, and everyone's going to bring something different. That's why we're in partnership. But if they're not, why are we partnering? We're settling.
Yeah.
For what? For company, when you actually know that this person's actually not making me a better version of myself. Am I a better version because I'm with you? Right?
Yeah, and that goes down to like, let's talk about attracting partners, because that's such a fascinating thing. It's like you attract the same person with a different face and different name.
Yeah.
The patterns that you don't heal in your relationship.
So different.
That's happened to me.
So what happened?
Oh fuck! Why did I say that? Yeah, it's just the same patterns. I felt like I was attracted to women that, you know, wanted things that I cannot provide.
Give me an example.
Like women that you know, they were at the age where they wanted the kids and family, and I don't want that right now in my life, but I was attracted to them. And then eventually it would get to the point where she'd be like, all right, well, what's the deal? Like, are you gonna give me kids or what? I'm like, no. And then of course we just end up breaking up, and then it's like hurt and pain and all this stuff, and that pattern's been happening a lot.
How many times?
Twice. Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
That's a lot for me.
Yeah. And why do you think it got to that point? How long were you with each person? How long were you with the first one?
The first one was 7 years.
Yeah. And after about 3 or 4 years, were you thinking like, were you guys talking about kids? Were you guys talking about?
I remember in the third year, I said, don't want to get married.
You said that at the third year?
Third year, yeah.
And she said?
And she just brushed it off. It's like boundaries, right?
Yeah.
It's like a loose boundary.
So she ignored the fact that you said that after 3 years?
Yeah, basically. Because my behavior was different.
Yeah. How was it different?
I was living with her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the thing I actually have to deal with, that, the forgiveness. I haven't forgiven myself for that. I still beat myself up about that, actually. And I think she's probably moved on. But
what did you do? What signs did you ignore? You were 3. You said you were 7
first
years.
Of all, she was older than me.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. I was like, I'm having a great time. This is great. And then she was 6 years my senior.
Mm-hmm.
Then the alarm bells started. This is like so fucking shit to talk about, but because if they're watching it. But anyway, this is like how I felt. They need closure for this. I need closure for myself. Basically, I was living in the house. Her sister was living in the house also. It was actually her house.
Yeah.
And then she was living with her partner. And she's a younger sister, right? And then they come in, knock on the door one night. They're like, "Hey, I'm engaged." And then I should be happy in that moment, and I was happy like on the outside, but inside, I was like, "Oh God, I'm gonna be next," because they're looking at me because I'm dating the older sister, and the younger sister that the dude's already proposed. Like my friend, already proposed to her. And then then they went to India, and then as they were gone, I just left the house. And I left when they weren't there, because I couldn't bring myself to pack all my stuff up whilst they were living in the house.
So you left?
Yeah.
Without telling her?
No, I told her. We had a conversation a couple of nights prior, but it was like it was like being jabbed. It was like being punched in the face by Mike Tyson. It was such a shock, it was such a surprise.
She was shocked?
Yeah. Because I'd been suppressing how I felt for so long.
So you didn't express anything about that?
We had a talk 4 years in.
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey, I feel like I want to leave and stuff." She basically wrote me back in. And that was a loose boundary.
Did she rope you back in?
No, I say that it's not, doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really convicted that I was going to leave at that point. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll just stay."
Yeah.
You know.
So you settled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I realized, like, I didn't want that for myself.
And why did you think you settled?
Fear,
Of?
unknown,
Yeah.
like the lack of comfort. You know, I was living in that house, just taking care of me, you know, like everything was great.
Yeah.
But then I just felt like a caged animal at times. Like the mum was living there also.
Yeah.
And I was just there in the house. Like every time I'd go out by myself, where are you going? Fuck, man. I feel like I feel like a kid.
Controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never said anything.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I never voiced any of these issues. Like everything that bothered me, I never spoke about.
Yeah. And what happens when we do that? What happens to our bodies when we don't express what we need or what we want? Think about it. How do you feel when you don't get out or speak up? How do you feel in your body?
Like,
heavy?
As soon as I get out into the town, meet my friends, I'm just like, I can relax now.
Yeah.
It's like I'm holding my breath.
But you normalized suppression for so long.
Yeah.
You normalized not being able to express, and we are expressive beings.
Yes.
We need to express. That's how we live. That's how we feel alive. And when we suppress something in us, what that does is it kills our spirit.
Yeah.
It kills the fire inside of you.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize that you're like, oh, I'm comfortable, but I'm dead. And for years you did that.
Yeah.
So then
I hate myself with that.
And this is where probably like there's probably guilt and there's probably some shame around there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, fuck, I should have spoken up. I should have left earlier. I knew the signs. I ignored the signs. You ignore the signs in year 3.
But the thing is, there's nothing wrong with her, but it was just what I wanted. Like, I could have easily married her, for example, right? And yeah, I would have been happy, I guess, but I don't know.
Would you have been happy?
If I continue suppressing myself, I don't know, but it's a hard one to process, man. It's something I haven't dealt with because I keep thinking about it, and it's been 5 years since I was with her now. So, 4 years? Yeah.
Have you wrote about it? Have you done any forgiveness work around it?
No, I haven't. No.
I would suggest doing a forgiveness process. I'll give one to you.
Yeah.
Where you write about it, write down your feelings, like resentments that you had around it, about yourself. Because there's pain. You can feel it. There's a story around like, what am I? How am I showing up?
Yeah, how could I do that to a human being?
How could I do that to her? There's guilt.
Yeah.
There's shame there. Like, I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
Right? I wasted this person's time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you see how that circulates. And when that circulates in the back of someone's mind, that emotion actually stops us from creating other things because it's an open loop. And until you close it and you get the lessons and take that, you could then have a conversation with her. Now, when I say have a conversation with her, what comes up for you as I say that?
Well, her and I, we still talk sometimes, you know, like maybe once, twice, 3 times a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was meant to go there actually next month, but anyway. But yeah, like I do want to settle that.
So what comes up for you if I was to say I want you to have an open conversation with her and actually let go and actually...
concern?
What's the concern?
I don't know if she needs to hear it, if she wants to hear it. Because why? I feel like I'd hurt her again.
What if she...
I don't want to hurt her again.
What if she needed to hear that she was a great partner? I just wasn't ready.
I think she knows that, but I don't know for sure.
You don't know. It's all assumptions.
But she's with a partner now.
Yeah. But still, there's still the back of her head, a bit of a trauma there that happened to her. I was with my partner for so long, I had no idea that he didn't want to be with me. And then he just left. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, she told me that she had thoughts of like suicidal thoughts, I think.
Yeah.
Or she was really depressed, at least.
Yeah.
What
happens when someone, all of a sudden, we've been with someone for so long and all of a sudden they just leave?
Yeah.
You're going to think of all the reasons under the sun.
Of why I'm not enough, yeah.
Why they left me. What did I not do enough of?
Yeah.
Was I too much? Was I this?
Yeah, so what she said is, she said, I loved you too much.
Maybe. Maybe she didn't challenge you enough. Maybe she tried to control it. Maybe she had a fear of abandonment and she ended up pushing you away.
Yeah, fear of abandonment she has.
Yeah. So then every time you went out, she feels anxious. He might leave. her fear came true. Whatever you focus on will grow. If I constantly think I'm not enough and I'm going to get abandoned, then I'm going to create a scenario where I push my partner away, where I sabotage it myself. We were talking about it earlier, sabotage. Why do we sabotage? We sabotage because we have low self-esteem, because we don't think that we're worthy of it.
Yeah.
So I try to control it. But the more we try to control and hold on, the more we actually bring that fear into our presence, into our reality.
Same thing with money as well.
Yeah, same exact thing.
It's like sabotaging. So I got all this money. Oh, that looks good. Oh, get that. Oh, I'll get that. And all of a sudden, fuck, where did all the money go?
So how do you sabotage money?
Just buy shit I don't need. Well, or just like spend it on. I find stuff to spend money on. Like I'm so creative. It's like, oh, I need a watch. Yeah, oh, yeah, I don't have that. I need that too. Yeah, oh yeah, I need. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, and it's just actually that's probably going back to business and coaching. That's probably what sabotaged my business. Like I'd make money instead of reinvesting it into the business. I'd just spend it and then just stay small. Because it's like fear. There's a subconscious fear there. Like if I hire a coach, we got to work more. We got to do more things, and I got more responsibility now. I got someone else to look after. Oh, it's all that pressure. I just, I could buy that watch instead, or yeah. So I sabotaged my business as well in that way. But I think the root for me is self-worth. So how do you cultivate more self-worth? Because a lot of the patterns in my life have been a lack of self-worth. Like even girl, for example, I was talking about her.
Who?
The girl I was talking about.
Yeah.
7 years. I felt like, after I broke up with her, it was good for a few months, and then I got back together with her. And that's another pattern of mine as well. And why do I get back together with the people that I already said, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore? And it's like, I feel like there's something missing. It's something external that's to make me happy.
But also it's trust, Aaron. Every time I go back on my word, I break my own word. I don't believe myself.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
And when I keep doing that to myself over and over and over again, that's a recipe for low self-esteem. I don't trust myself. I don't believe myself. I said I'm going to do this, and then I follow it, and then I don't follow through, and I go and do the same thing again.
Yeah.
Or I get convinced into pushing into that because that's easier. Right?
Yeah.
And if I trust myself, because I say I'm going to do things and I follow through, then I'm going to do the next thing. How do you build confidence? The key ingredient is trust. It's following through with the thing I said I was going to do, and then doing that one thing over and over again. It doesn't need to be big. It could be like, today I'm going to do 10 push-ups, and then I'm going to drink a big glass of water, and that's the 2 things today. Then you do that, you tick it off your list, and you go, yes, see, I followed through. Then tomorrow you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. You're building that trust. And then you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to go for a 2-kilometer run. Not 5, not 10, 2. And then you follow through and you do that. And you go, oh, look, I did that. And you're telling your subconscious that I am worthy because I say I am, because I follow through with what I say I do. But when you don't, and when you let people come in and just overtake and convince you not to listen to your gut, not to listen to your values, then that's when you get disconnected from your own gut, from your own truth.
Yeah, it's easy to do those things that, build the trust in yourself. But I find that it's not enough.
It's a consistent practice. And this is why having a coach is, we need coaches. We need people to keep us accountable. We are the best negotiators. If you're in personal training for years, like you see a client, they can negotiate easily. Like, I don't want to do this today. Yeah. I find 5 reasons why I don't need to do this. Right? And the thing is, for me, it's easier. I just don't negotiate. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm committed to do it. Right? I even tell my team, Like, hey, this is what I have to put out this week. This is what I have to do. Hold me accountable. Because otherwise my mind will try and negotiate and try and look for easier ways, look for excuses out of it.
Yeah.
But ultimately we have to recognize, like, why do I do this? Why? What's my biggest why? What am I trying to create in my career?
Yeah.
Why am I in this relationship? And if I don't know why, then it might not be the right relationship or the right career.
Yeah. So going back to the career thing, this is like my life's question right now, right? Because I was talking to you about this off camera. Michael Jordan's got a documentary on Netflix called The Last Dance. You both watched it. You've got Will Smith's story of his book. All these people that have achieved huge success have had some sort of wound that they're trying to achieve to fill the void that they felt. Like, I feel it's like in business, right? Like, there's this guy, anyway, he's a big business guy, and he's like, so insecure that he went and built this huge business to try and fill the void of him feeling insecure.
Not feeling enough. Yeah.
And so that drive of not feeling enough, not being seen, like no one's paying attention to you, you're the shittest player, like that drive is what propels them. So my question is, if you don't have that drive, like how are you going to achieve these heights if you don't have that wound that's causing that drive?
You can achieve things. You have to have a burning desire. So their desires were based on things that happened to them as children, right? Will Smith, his why, when you listen to his book, his why was because he wanted to become one of the biggest, most amazing movie stars, right? But his why, he became an entertainer because he saw his father beat his mother in front of him and he felt weak. He didn't step in. He felt scared. He hated being scared. So what did he do? I'm going to overcompensate and I'm going to go towards fear. So everything that I was scared of, I would go towards. He even says it, right? And he eventually realizes that even though he's gone towards all the fears and he's gone there, he's still not satisfied. He's still not fulfilled because he hasn't healed the wound of being a child and seeing that his mother getting beat, right? He's got a story. He's got a story that I'm not strong enough. I can't help my mother. So what do? I decide to become the biggest entertainer in the world. And this is how he would play the same thing you said earlier. He'll become the entertainer in the family. Everything's all right. Everything's calm. Everything's going to be cool. Hey, look, Dad, I'll make you laugh. I'll make you laugh to distract you from beating Mum's head in. See how that's so deeply ingrained? Michael Jordan, in The Last Dance, talks about how his father was always with his older brother. He wanted to come out with his older brother and his dad in the shed, and he said, go in the house with your mum. He got cut from the high school basketball team. It affects his self-esteem. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I got cut. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to make sure this never happens to me again. I'm going to make sure I never get cut again. I'm going to destroy every person that comes in the way because I know that if I become the best, people are going to give me praise and love and satisfaction. Same thing as Will Smith. Will Smith gets to the point where he gets this much stardom and then he realizes that I'm so disconnected that I don't even know who my wife is anymore. I'm disconnected from my kids. I'm the biggest movie star in the world, but I'm lonely. So what is desire? How do we get desire? It comes from our values. And if you value it, you have to check in. Why do I want this goal? What is going to change? If I achieve this, what am I going to do with this to give back, to teach more people, to impact more people? Jim Carrey said, I wish everyone becomes famous and earns millions of dollars so they realize that that's actually not the answer. We see so many artists and we see so many famous people killing themselves because of a lack of fulfillment, because they're not actually connected to themselves. There's no joy. So how do you achieve such status? First, figure out why you want it in the first place. First, figure out what success means to you. Because if you don't if you're trying to go on what other people's success means, you're missing the point. If I'm trying to achieve the same success as Michael Jordan, I want to be the best of him. You don't realize what Michael Jordan went through. He couldn't go anywhere in the world without people recognizing him and hounding him. Now imagine you in his shoes for 24 hours and everybody just coming at you and bombarding you. Can I have a picture? Can I have a picture? Can I have this? Can I have that? Michael Jordan, I'm writing a story about you. He had stories written about his father when his father got murdered.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Right? Imagine your father just getting murdered and then them saying, did you set it up?
Yeah.
How would that feel? So everybody wants the fame, wants the money, but it's also recognizing what comes with that kind of fame. Why do I want that kind of fame? What am I trying to get from external, from people? Where do I not feel fulfilled here? And there's nothing wrong with going and growing, like having massive dreams, but just understand why you want it in the first place. And make sure your values align with it. Because if they don't, you will get there, but you won't be any happier.
Yeah, and so the values is knowing who you are, right?
Yeah, it's understanding who you are, why you want it. It's about the way you show up on a daily basis. It's your being.
Because you can achieve to a high level and still not know who you are. Is that possible?
You can achieve massive goals and still be lost and lonely. Another example, Justin Bieber wrote a song about lonely. He's like, how does the song go? How does the song go? It goes, if you could have it all, nobody to call, you still never know me. Yeah, so he basically talks about how everybody knows my name, and when I'm down and sick, no one gives a shit. Like, it goes something like that. But he expresses how he's like, everybody knows me. And the moment I get sick or something happens to me, everyone laughs at me. It's like, what is that? Why do we want that? And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. I want to make big things happen. I want to impact millions of people. But I also want to make sure that I do not lose myself in the process to the point where I am so burnt out and disconnected from myself. What's the point?
It's like Beyonce says in her song Running, she said, if I lose myself, I lose it all.
Yeah.
And that's such a deep lyric. Like, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's not worth it if you lose yourself.
It's not. We sacrifice our health for likes or to be fed by external things. And what happens when that gets taken away? What happens when someone decides they want to cancel you? Your identity's gone. Who are you? Who are you without that thing?
That's another key thing. Is a lot of people in this day and age think that they're their job. It's like, who are you? And they just say what they do for work. It's like, that's not who you are. That's what you do. They're two separate things.
Yeah.
But your identity can get lost. Like, I thought I was the fitness guy. Like, that's who I am. I'm the fitness guy. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm way more than that. But that's what I thought I was.
I did the same thing. I was a model for 12 years.
Yeah.
When I stopped modeling, it was the first thing that happened to me was I lost a whole lot of confidence because I was like, who am I now?
Yeah.
I used to be the dude that was on billboards and I was doing New York Fashion Week and people would see me all over TV and commercials. And now I'm not doing that. And I realized I based all of my confidence and self-esteem on that. So I had to rebuild myself. I had to rebuild my values. I was training in the gym, not because I'm like, of course I knew I felt better when I trained, but I wasn't training because I wanted to be healthier. I was training because I got paid to look good. So when I stopped modeling, all of a sudden, I don't need to, look all ripped and stuff because I'm not doing underwear campaigns anymore.
No reason.
And then all of a sudden I stopped training and then all of a sudden my energy slows down and my mood slowed down and I'm like, wait a second, I'm not as motivated. I'm not in a good mood. All these things are affecting.
Yeah.
So I put health again on my values and I gave health a new meaning. And the meaning I give health now is emotionally, spiritually, physically, not just one thing, which was physically. It's emotionally and spiritually.
Yeah.
What are the emotional thoughts that I'm having? What are my emotional thoughts that I'm eating? what am I saying to myself? Am I talking shit to myself when I wake up in the morning, or am I communicating with myself? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the self-care is the most important thing. But I think with regards to coaching and group coaching, how does self-care play a role in your ability to show up for your clients?
Huge. Good question. Huge. If I'm not filling up my cup, if I'm not sitting with myself daily, there's no way I'm going to have the capacity to coach a group, because it's a lot of energy, right? And you have to recognize when you are doing these kinds of things that you make sure you're prepping yourself, because you're about to go into a big container with a lot of people. So I always make sure, like, if I'm about to run a course, or I'm going to do a program, or I'm going to run an event, I am so on point with my sleep first, right? Morning and night routine. Everyone thinks about morning routine, but they forget about the night routine, because it's what you do the night before that sets you up for the next day. But everyone's like, yeah, you got to have a good morning routine. But what happens when you wake up and you're tired? That mood translates into everything you do. So I always think about the first hour of power. Meditate, read a book, listen to a podcast, movement. I prefer to exercise in the morning. Diet. There's a reason why we have a chef. When you first started living here, I was like, do you want to have a chef? And you were like, no, I'll cook myself. And I was like, whatever. I was like, I'm about automizing, right?
Yeah.
Right? I want to make sure I have my systems on point. If I give the chef a bunch of recipes and I'm getting my good fats for my brain daily, making sure I have avocado, coconut water, lean meat, lean fish, salads, I feel better. I feel way more connected to my body. I need to make sure I'm on point and not just talking about it and telling my students to do it, but I'm doing it. I'm living it, right? And for me, when I'm preparing for a group, it's always about making sure I set my intention first and go, okay, who do I need to be? Because that's going to translate into the group. That's going to impact every single person in that group, how I show up.
Yeah, it's powerful. And when you do show up in front of a group, it's different to one-on-one, isn't it?
Way different.
Vastly different. Because maybe you've had experiences where you have people that you're coaching and they're brilliant one-on-one, but then when it comes to a group, they're like, all the limiting beliefs come up, their stories, and how do you get them past that?
How do you get coaches past that?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to look at it as different things. If you can coach one person, you can coach a group. But the thing that a lot of coaches fear is, like, if I stuff up this answer, what happens if I don't know what to say next? What happens if a client's having a breakdown and people start reacting, right? There's all these kinds of stories that come up. Public speaking can be really scary. And that's what I always remind my coaches, that it's like, if you can coach one person, you can coach a group. But, like, how do we facilitate? How do we make sure we're seeing the energy of the group? How are you reading the group? And this is why emotional intelligence is so important. Because when we understand our emotions and go, okay, what am I feeling in the room? I'm always watching the energy. I'm watching to see how long the segment is going to go for when we're facilitating. Are we talking about deep stuff? Is this going to be really heavy? Do we need to make the next segment lighter for them so that they can actually make sure that we don't overwhelm them and bombard their nervous system? Right? These are all things we need to take into account. What is each module going to bring up for the client? Know what is going to happen, right? So if I'm doing that with one person and I go, just say I created a 6-week program for you, I'm not going to give you 6 weeks of smashing you. I'm going to pace you. I'm going to make sure I give you 1 week that's heavier, 1 week that's a little bit lighter, depending on where you're at with yourself in the journey. And it's the same thing. If I've got 4 days to work with you in an intense setting, I'm not going to just throw you in the deep end on the first day. I'm not going to go, let's go into your healing, trauma, all your fears on the first day. No, I'm going to build rapport on the first day. I'm going to build connection. I'm going to share about my own stuff that I've gone through, because when I build connection with you and I build rapport, you're getting to trust me. You're going, oh shit, he's just like me. There's a similarity here. I can trust this guy. He's not acting like he's perfect. And when I build rapport, the first thing I do is like, I'm sharing about my own vulnerabilities, my own pains that I've gone through. I'm not going, I'm up here and you're down here. I'm going, look, we're here, we're equal. And then I can, after I built rapport and connection, then I can go into some deeper stuff with you.
So when you coach people on their inner child,
When?
I know in your program you have a module where you coach them on their inner child.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why does that have a relevance to coaching?
Inner child work is the most profound work we can do, because everything comes from how we were raised as children. How did you receive love as a child? When you were loud, how did you receive love from your mum and dad?
Huh? When I was loud.
Yeah.
When I was loud.
Yeah. It's so funny because you're like, I was never loud.
Well, most parents, like my parents, would tell me to be quiet, stop talking too much. My dad even, that's another thing that triggers me. My dad does it now with his kid. He had a kid when he was 52, so he's 7 years old now.
Yeah.
And like he regularly says like, oh, you stop talking so much, or like he's still doing it. And I don't speak up because I'm like, who am I to tell my father how to parent his child?
But do you recognize you receive love from being quiet? So what do? Don't say anything. Be a good boy. That's how I receive love from my father.
Kind of.
Well, if it wasn't, you'd be encouraged to speak up more.
Yeah.
But your dad said what?
Stop talking.
Yeah. So your brain goes, oh shit, don't talk too much because he won't approve or he doesn't like that. I want him to love me. I want my dad to approve of me. So what do? I'll be a good boy. I'll be quiet. I won't say much.
Yeah, and then all his friends will be like, oh, your kids are so well behaved, they don't really say much.
Yeah, so is it kind of, or is that really happening?
Well, as you were talking about it, I'm just remembering stuff.
Yeah.
And then another thing was, he was like, oh, you're not talking to adults. Like you're not talking to adults. You're 16 years old. You should be able to have a conversation with an adult. And so I was basically I felt like I was being forced to grow up fast.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden you've been really good. You've been really quiet. Good boy. Look at my kid. He's a really good boy. Right? And you hear that and you go, yes, I'm a really good boy. Look, I'm worthy of being loved because I'm quiet. And then all of a sudden, switch. You should go and speak to people. You should speak to the adults. You're like, I've never been trained how to speak to adults. I've always been the good boy that's been quiet. So how did you do that?
I had an epiphany once, and I realized that adults are just like me, but they're just older. Because I had a disassociation with adults. I thought they were just like aliens almost. They're like completely different to me. Like they have all their shit figured out. But then when I started talking to them, and one lady, she was like, oh, that was it. On Sunday night at my house, she said, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. And I asked her, why do you need to go to work? And then she gave me all these bullshit excuses. And I was just like, what? I thought you had all your shit figured out. Like I thought adults had everything together.
Yeah.
And then I just asked her a question. I was like, why are you going to work if you don't want to go to work? And I asked my dad this too. And he's like, oh, we all have to go to work. It's just like, why am I putting these people on a pedestal? And that's when I started being comfortable with talking to them more.
But do you recognize also, it's interesting you said putting people on a pedestal, right? So you put people that are older than me on a pedestal. They must know more.
Yeah.
I'm not as smart as them.
Yes.
So I'll keep asking them questions. Did your dad, I'm just throwing an assumption out there based on a pattern that I'm hearing. Did your father, was he always telling you what to do? Don't do it like that, do it like that.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of, yeah.
Did he let you do things, and when you did do things, did he criticize?
Yeah, so I have a really bad relationship with failure.
Yeah.
Because I was raised like, I got to do this perfect, especially in football. With football, it was just like, if I made a mistake, I remember one time I made a big mistake and they scored, and he was like, Aaron, like on the side. I was like, oh, fuck, I fucked up. And in the car on the way back, like if I made a mistake in the game, he'd like be fucking gunning me down for my mistakes.
Criticize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't fuck up.
Yeah. So
he's coming to my games. Fuck, I can't make a mistake.
So then what's the pressure you would put on yourself?
I got to perform. I got to get it right.
Got to get it perfect.
Yeah.
Because if I don't get it perfect, what do I get?
I don't get acceptance. I get a heck of an earful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives me an earful.
I get beaten up. And then what do I do to myself now? Because I've learned it from him. I start to beat myself up more.
Yeah, beat myself up 100%. Fuck, I shouldn't have done that. Fuck, like dad's mad at me. Like, fuck, why did I do that? I'm such an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a recipe for disaster. That is the recipe for low self-esteem.
Yes.
So when you're constantly like, I need to perform for someone else to get his approval or love, you're never ever going to get it. And I guarantee his father did the same to him. It's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
So us as men, we need to break that.
Yeah. My dad's dad,
Yeah.
he was always, my grandfather was like, do the right thing. Like, in his African accent.
Yeah.
Make sure you do the right thing. And so that, just in that statement, it's like, if you're not doing the right thing, you're fucking up. And that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Because you should do the right thing.
Yeah. That's crazy. We all carry these patterns. It's ancestral, right? Generational.
Yeah. So we've got to break the pattern, right?
Yeah, but first, to break a pattern, we have to be aware that we're in the pattern. Oh, what's my pattern? Oh, this is a pattern that I've had for so long. Where did it come from? Even as we talk tonight, and I asked you this question, I guarantee that was the first time you heard it because you were like, wait, what? When I said to you, were you told to be quiet as a child? That's how you receive love? You're like, no, not really. Oh, yeah. And then his friends were like, yeah, he's such a good boy. Like you were trained to be quiet. And I know this, Aaron, because I was trained to be quiet. I was trained to be seen but not heard.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So what did I do as a child?
Yep.
Don't speak up, don't talk too much. And when people do talk, or even if I meet people now that are loud or like very out there, I'm like, oh, shut up. You're annoying me. Because I was domesticated, I was trained by my parents, not necessarily my mother, but my father. I was trained that if you want to receive love, you don't speak up or you don't talk out of place.
But they don't know that they're doing that because
that's just the way they're raised.
It's the way they're raised.
It's like, it's a good boy.
That's what kids are supposed to do.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be seen, not heard. Mommy and daddy are talking. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. But even as I see children today, I'm like, oh my God, that'll never be my child. But I'm also like, you can discipline your child and you can communicate to your child, but without shaming them or making them wrong. And you can be like, hey, give me a second. I'll be with you in a second, and acknowledge them.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, I'm talking, right? And being dismissed, right? Because that's not healthy either. These are all things that affect how we see ourselves and how we treat ourselves. And this is what I'm saying. We get domesticated, and this is how I was raised by my dad. So this is how I show up now in relationship. And it's repeating.
Yeah. But how does that help with the coach who's facilitating a group? If they know their inner child, how does that help them?
Yeah, so we digressed a bit, but when a coach understands if they've healed their inner child or what their blocks are or what their triggers are, it's going to help them effectively coach deeper with their clients, with the group. Because what happens in a group setting? What happens when everybody starts talking about their child, their children, their past? It's going to bring up things. It's going to trigger things. When you shared your story at Elevate about how you expressed love to your father, you know how many people that triggered in the crowd? So many people, because they're listening and they're like, oh my God, that happens to me. As I share my story, you're like, oh my God, that was me too. As Will Smith shared his story, you're like, I can relate to that so much. My dad used to beat my mum or talked about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he used to slap me on the butt with a slipper.
Yeah. But do you see, like, through that relation in the story, right? When you're doing inner child work with a group, it's going to bring up trauma. It's going to bring up emotions. It's going to bring up fears. It's going to bring up things that people haven't dealt with before. But when you do deal with it effectively, and you obviously know how to hold space for the group, and you're grounded in your own energy, it doesn't matter how much stuff is coming out of them. You saw at our events when I'm coaching people and they're having full breakdowns. Remember we did the allowing exercise? And people were like full shaking, like, oh my God, I'm going to have to like full let go right now. And I had to stand with people and allow them to full break down. It's a process. It moves.
Yeah, that was so wild, man. Like, I did this exercise where we had to think of an emotional time in our life, right? And just allow all the emotions up that we felt.
Yeah.
And I was having a hard time feeling emotions just because I've been numbing myself for so long. Like most of society, they don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
Right? And I was that guy. I was like, I can't feel like sad. I can't feel anger.
Yeah.
But then some people, a lot of the women were just like really emoting.
Full shaking, crying.
And I actually felt like something was wrong with me in that moment. Like, why can't I feel?
Yeah.
Why can't I feel these emotions?
You haven't allowed yourself to feel them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the problem. I used to not allow myself to express anger, feel it. The reason why I know it so well, and I know your pattern so well, is because that was me. I was exactly the same, bro. Why do you think I'm an emotional intelligence coach? Because I was shit with my emotions. I would blow up at people and be like, that's it. We're not even friends anymore. See ya. Right? And then I used to think that was strong.
Yeah.
That I was protecting myself. But I was actually, it's weak. And at the end of the day, it's not empowering. Right? You're just avoiding and putting walls up. But when you put a wall up, and the difference between a wall and a boundary is different. A boundary goes to here. I can still see you and have a conversation with you. A wall goes like this. I don't hear nothing, whatever. You're disappearing. Get lost. There's a difference.
And the walls are just there to... It's funny because, of course, we want to move away from pain.
Yeah.
Every human does. So what the pattern is I was sharing this with a girl and I was like, maybe I should be a relationship coach, but I don't want to be. But she basically got hurt by this guy, and then she was like, all right, I'm not getting any more guys now. I'm not letting any other guys in. And I was like, well, that's going to guarantee that you don't ever get intimacy with another person.
Yeah. Because you're so scared of getting hurt.
Yeah. So scared of getting hurt. But it's the same thing with money too. It's the same. Like in Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about there's no rich person that's never lost money. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So you have to risk getting hurt or risk losing money to get what you want ultimately.
Money ultimately is a game, the same thing. When we talk about crypto, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm okay with winning a lot of money, I have to be okay with losing a lot of money. I can't just be like, oh, I'm good when this money goes and I get the money and it goes up, but then I'm shit and my emotions go down. I'm like,
yeah,
you have to make your rules. You have to understand, what are my rules for this? Otherwise, you literally will drive yourself insane.
Yeah. And that's like linking self-esteem to money, isn't it? Like
Money,
I used to do that.
self-worth.
Money's up, I'm feeling great. Money's down, oh fuck, I'm such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But that's the real feeling of myself, was I feel like I'm worthless, you know? Like the money's down, that means that reflects on my character.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not true, but that's how I felt.
I reckon so many of us do that though.
Yeah,
as well.
And then you hang out with people that make more money, and you feel even more less than, because they're making more than you. So because you're attaching your self-worth to that, so they must be worth more. You know?
Oh, they must be better than you.
They must be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a thing. We compare. We compare to see if we are superior or inferior based on what we're comparing. Yeah. If this person that I'm comparing myself to is making more money than me, then my ego takes a hit and go, oh, I'm not as good as them. And then I look for all the reasons why I'm not as good as them. But if I compare myself to someone that I'm doing better than, and I'm earning more money than them, and I have better status, then my ego kicks in and goes, look at me, I'm way better. I'm fine. I'm doing better than them. It's ego sneaky, bro. And it comes in and it's very sneaky. It talks very softly in the back of your ear. And this is where we have to catch the ego. And the ego is not a good or bad thing. Everyone thinks the ego is bad, but it's like, it's there to protect us. But you have to recognize when the ego is using you or you're using it.
Absolutely. And yeah, the comparison thing, we can talk about that for ages, but we've been going here for about an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, it has been, yeah.
We're going to do a part 2, I guess. This is cool if you're open to it.
I'm open, bro.
Yeah, because I think the reaction from this video, people will get a lot of value out of it, even if they're not a coach, you know?
Yeah, we talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
So...
talked about life. I feel like this is the stuff that is the most important in life, I think.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just running up the mountain with, climbing the ladder against the wrong wall if you don't know this stuff. And there's a lot of people probably listening who have done that and they can relate on a deeper level because they've experienced it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I just got to the top of this mountain and that's the mountain I wanted to climb, not this one. Fuck. Just wasted like 5 years. They didn't waste it, but, you know, nothing's wasted, I don't think.
If you keep repeating it, it's wasting it. If you repeat it more than twice, it's a waste.
Right, true. Yeah. So do you have any last words to share with anyone?
No, I think if anything, stay true to you, understand who you are, what your values are, and know your why. And that will save you a lot of time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
bro.
right. We'll see you in the next one.